Hello and welcome to another episode of Out Zoo. Today, Eric Tung is joining me again in the zoo. He is down in San Diego, where they have the Social Media Marketing World Conference, or whatever it's called. It's a huge get-together. It's all the powwows in the world getting together, talking about how they can use Twitter to sell more stuff. Welcome to the zoo, Eric.
Hey, how's it going?
Tell us a little
Thank
bit
you.
about the conference, by the way.
Yeah, it's Social Media Marketing World. It's the keynote's right behind me right now.
Who's the keynote? Oh,
Who's in the keynote? We've
yeah.
got Jay Baer, New York Times bestselling author of Utility. Nicole Kelly's over there. She's I think, the president of Social Media Explorer. It's a blog and consulting service as well. Ted Rubin, he wrote a book called Return on Relationship. And also Jeff Roars, who wrote a book called Audience. So it's a pretty cool panel altogether. It's going on right there. About 1,800 social media professionals from all across the world.
Tell me this, if I read some of those books, and these are big names, even I know who they are, and I tend to stay away from business management books. I find them repetitive and a little bit of waste of time. However, from time to time I run across good books, and I want to understand social media better. I want to understand this phenomenon that is, whether I like it or not, changing my life, my family's life, my work life, the customer I sell to's life. Give me some suggestions here. Help me out. What should I read? Where should I go to understand social media better in today's world?
New book just came out from Mark Schaefer. It's called Social Media Explained, and it does a pretty good job of kind of covering at a high level, mostly for your, managers, directors, and really I think a lot of people kind of in the general community, right? People that work for your company that might not be directly involved with social. That's a really good book to pick up to get an idea of what social can do for your organization. So,
Because that's a little bit the problem, right? Is that we told to do social media in corporation. I have a friend who works with Apple. Actually, I have both at Apple and Google, and they had the same issue. They are considered social media fanatics. The companies are. But these employees are not. And, I'm a skeptic. I always like to look underneath the hood. These guys are almost confrontational when it comes to, they don't see the value because they don't feel that everybody should be on Twitter. There should be certain people on Twitter, but unless you have something to say, why should I be there? And a lot of executives are saying, well, just go on, be social, whatever. Apparently, there's something that we're supposed to do because they read a Forbes article, whatever. What's your take on that?
well, if you look at IBM, they've got 8 distinct areas, or I guess kind of roles for their employees that are in social. And they be anything from people that are just listening to what people are talking about, all the way through thought leaders and content providers. So you don't have to necessarily be someone that blogs and tweets and engages with people on social and on behalf of business. You can actually just be someone that is there just listening to the conversation, or you could take that to the next level and kind of promote the content that people are putting out. So it's kind of it's not it's not binary. It's not, are you social or are you not social. It's really a sliding scale. You can start out being kind of just listening all the way up through becoming like an established thought leader on social.
Social has been very much business to consumer. Are CIOs actually making decisions based on tweets, or is that something we're chasing, a mirage?
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at some of the research, even 2 years ago, high-tech B2B buyers, they surveyed 1,000 of them, and 33% of them were already using social for decision making, and 75% said they would within the next year. So that was 2 years ago already.
Really?
IBM did a trial with social, and in their first quarter, they beat their quota 400%. Generally speaking, salespeople that are social outrank their non-social salespeople 78% of the time. And if you look at people here at this conference, almost all the major enterprise software companies are here. We've got Cisco, CA, SAP, Citrix is here. Who else? VMware, and Dell's here. So there's lots of B2B, very very non-pretty type companies.
So, and although IBM had issues with their revenue reports recently, you feel that, I mean, you talk about the largest corporation in the tech world, you feel that they have actually established itself in the heart, and that's really where we need to go, because of social media. You do believe that that is happening? That, let's say I'm a decision maker who buys stuff, surveys, no service, your instinct, we influence people by being thought leaders in the social media world?
It's multifold though, right? So you have, you can create great content to put it out there, and that can help influence your community. But, in addition to that though, if you take a look at some of the stats too, if your company is social, it can increase your sales cycle 40 to 50%.
Really?
60% of the sales cycle is complete by the time the company or your product calls you. So a lot, more than ever before, companies even are starting to use social networks to get more information. And because you're social, your prospect is going to be more educated and require shorter sales cycle because they already are reading your white papers. They already know more about your products than someone that, for a non-social company. But even if that doesn't work for you, even if you don't believe that part of it, by being social and creating good, traditionally go to your website anyway, you'll get more of those people just because you're creating great shareable content.
So it's the whole zero moment of truth, but underlying the notion of social media is that you have to have good content. You can't just tweet for the sake of tweeting. A lot of people are just corporate mouthpieces, if you will. You find because I find it overwhelming. I follow like 450 people, and I have almost all of them sorting to lists, and that's the only way I can deal with it. It's just too much all the time, like constantly. Do you have any tips on how, not so much how you reach out, but you talked about listening, which I find an exciting aspect, something that we forgot, especially in this time and day that people are so eager to talk, very few people listen. How do I listen? How do I find the information I need? Is there tricks around that? If I'm a CIO and I want to find out what's going on in the world, how do I get rid of the noise and find the signal?
I would say, pretty much anyone that you might want to follow probably has some sort of Twitter account. Blogs, you can take the RSS feed from a blog and, create your own reading lists of blog posts. But really, 50% of people on Twitter don't actually create content. 50% are kind of lurkers. They have an account, they log on, they look at their sports team, or the weather, the news, or their celebrities that they like, and then maybe also some of the industries and company info that they might be following as well. So it's a lot of and that's perfectly fine too. If you want to use Twitter as kind of a customized news feed of everything that you want to follow, that's perfectly fine.
And I think that's the issue, right? We don't know how we're supposed to behave. It's one thing, I mean, I'm a very private guy. I don't share myself. I share my corporate views, if you will, with a twinkle of alpha on top of it. And we talked about this at the last call. All I really want is for Tom York from Radiohead to follow me so I can ask him questions, but that's never going to happen. You say, well, you never know. Write something clever. Am I supposed to, so other than just listening, if I do want to engage, how do I get people's attention? Is there a starter tip? How do I hook someone?
One of the guys speaking right now, actually, Group was one of the first people I had ever reached out on Twitter for to engage with, and he was listed on a list of the top most social CMOs, chief marketing officers. So I went on, I followed a lot of them, I asked a few of them some questions, and he was really the only one that kind of responded and really started to engage. And since then, we've built a great relationship. He sent me his last book. I tweet a lot of his information. So, I think it's just really, going out there and finding out who who's influential in your space or who you'd like to get in contact with. And then from there, you can really kind of, create a relationship on social. But I would say
That's
one of the top things you can do is really help share their content. Anytime you have you're reading their blog posts or anything like that, anytime they tweet, if you can help them share their stuff, is real a real quick way to get noticed a lot of times by some of the very influential people is to say, hey, I loved what you wrote, or I have some questions about it. I shared it, and and I'd like to discuss this with you. So it's kind of a great way to chat with them.
Let me ask you this. Last night, I asked my 12-year-old daughter to email me something, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm not being elfish. She looked at me like, email, that's right, that's that Outlook thing, right? And it was this strange notion that
Mm-hmm.
you send something. Not only that, but is the way we communicate through social media, is that also going to be redundant? What's the next thing? Is it, if I mean, Snapchat is the future of any teenage girl, by the way, because your life exists and then it dies, just like the moment that you grasp it and it's gone. 10 years from now, how important will social media be? Whether it's in a different guise than it is today, what do you think is going to happen over the next 10 years?
Well, 10 years from now, it's, social is going to be a lot more of a skill rather than a job, right? So if you think about in the 50s, you had groups of, mostly women that were typists, right? And then someone figured out, hey, you know, typing is probably a good skill for everyone to have. So they kind of became socialized into the workplace. Everyone was in charge of it, right? Everyone did their own typing. Email, originally when email came out in the 90s, it was they had people that were kind of in charge of the email, right?
It was
Saying,
awesome.
uh, and now everyone gets on their own Outlook, schedules their own calendars, that kind of thing. It's a piece of just what everyone does. So I think 10 years from now, you're going to have social really just be a piece of everyone's job, whether you're in HR or marketing, recruiting, customer service. There's kind of a social component to everything out there now. Even when you get into even some of the more technical stuff, like, we've got a lot of software engineers and developers and that kind of thing. There are social components that you can add to everyone's job. I think that makes it a lot easier to do your job, right? So you can use Evernote or Dropbox or your collaboration tools, and you can use them in a way that makes it easier to do your job. Whether you're posting, you know, job openings on Twitter or something else, I think it's really going to be a piece of everyone's job. I actually gave a speech on this, a keynote speech at Social Media Tulsa just last week. 6 big trends in social that are going to happen in the next, 5 or 10 years.
And
And
what are
that's
those in 2 minutes or less?
Yep. So number one, kind of social network consolidation. You see a lot of that from Facebook took over Instagram and WhatsApp, Twitter and Vine, Yahoo, and Tumblr, right? Condé Nast, even publisher of the New Yorker magazine, took over Reddit, right? So there's lots of consolidation there. There's also consolidation number two in the tools, right? So a few years ago, it wasn't that long ago, you were on AOL Instant Messenger, Yahoo Messenger, or ICQ, and the
Yeah.
first company that came along that could integrate them was called Trillium, and it was awesome because you could then finally integrate all your different chat interfaces, right? And then talk to any one of your friends on any of those networks. So you see a lot of that starting to happen. Um, and like a service called Bottlenose, Hootsuite, you can combine feeds into the same page so you can see everything at the same time. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that, trying to filter through the noise of social to get to that. sharing economy. So,
What does that mean?
chickens and cows, come up with your own milk and eggs and flour and butter, right? But 50 years ago, it was more of a manufacturing economy. You could go to the store and pick up all these different products. 10 years ago, it became more of a service economy. Or maybe 20 years ago, you could go to the store, go to Walmart, buy your, half a sheet cake, and you don't even have to have a kitchen anymore. But more recently, it's been a service economy. You go to Chuck E. Cheese, you don't have to have a house, and you can still have a birthday party. But into the future, it's really going to be kind of the sharing economy that started up a few years ago when people had, spare assets, and other people, didn't have the ability to afford, a $400 hotel somewhere. So the two of them matched up on Airbnb, and you could rent someone's, guest bedroom for $75 a night or something. So it ends up being kind of a marketplace where, you can set that kind of thing. But along with the sharing economy, I think, it kind of opens people up to being a little bit more, if you can share your guest bedroom with a complete stranger that booked online, you're going to share more information about yourself generally, right? So Zuckerberg has a law that's people share twice as much information as the year before every year, right? Number four, we've got like crowdsourcing from a business perspective. So it's not just logos and websites anymore, right? Those are kind of the first places that you could crowdsource is, hey, I've got $300 to design a logo. A bunch of people design a logo, and whoever I like the most gets $300. Now it's really, lots of different pieces of the business, really,
Well, what I like about crowdsourcing is that you're pooling all this knowledge. You have
Yeah,
10,000 people working there, and no one ever asked us what
yeah,
we think. It's an enormous wealth of information just sitting there, and crowdsourcing knowledge in a corporation, you're an idiot if you don't take advantage of it, right?
yeah. I mean, our VP of Communications, Mark Stu, says, social is like an ongoing market test group, right? A focus group. You can throw at any time a question out there and see what people that follow you, your customers, your prospects, think about that in real time. Starbucks created a blog called My Starbucks Idea that generated 50,000 new product ideas for them. So there's a bunch of different opportunity out there to use that. Number 5 was big data. So how does people, how do people like Target use your buying, your buying patterns and things to find out that you're pregnant? They did that a couple years ago,
Yeah.
where a father was kind of annoyed that Target sent his teenage daughter, diaper coupons, and so he stormed into the store and said, "Hey, what's going on? Where are you can use buying information?" And it doesn't have to be obvious. It's not diapers or baby shampoo. It's a larger amount of unscented lotion or a large handbag that can double as a diaper bag. So they can figure out not only that some of their customers are pregnant, but also how far along they are. So
So the whole idea of predictive or cognizant computing.
Yeah. And so Target's a little bit smoother now. They intermingle the baby products with other stuff too. So they'll say, hey, come buy some diapers, but also, hey, here's a 32-inch TV you can buy or something. So they're a little bit smoother. And then finally, Quantify itself. It's something that Chris Dancy, big guest on the show.
It's amazing. I doubt there are any guests coming on here not referencing him some way or another.
And really, it's a big piece of it. Kind of combines a lot of things too, right? It's big data about yourself personally, right? But then it's also a little bit of like sharing. It's in a lot of cases sharing some of your information to find out who got the most steps today on your Fitbit or whatever. So it's kind of a combination of all the different pieces all combined. So I think it's I'll send you the link to the blog post, but so the big 6 trends I think that are going to be happening in social in the next 5 or 10 years.
Well, thank you, Eric, for coming and joining us in the zoo. I always appreciate your input, and you have such a great perspective of social media. You're living it there. Houston Business Chronicle, I think they list you as one of the most influential social media guys. So sharing some time with us in the zoo is most appreciated. Thank you, Eric.
All right.
For the rest of you, take care, be safe. Bye-bye.